Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fam Sports Varsity. I'm your host, Frank Langella, joined by my co-host, Marcelio Langella and Mars. This is our game preview show for Section 1B. Football is coming right this weekend. We've done a couple other shows already, but football's right here, and we're going to get some game action. I know it's been about only 2 weeks of practice, officially 2 weeks of practice for the Section 1 football teams, but it's going to be very interesting. We get some actual gameplay, and these kids are going to have a chance to compete.
Yeah, man, it's getting exciting, and we were getting hours and hours close to the game time, and I keep saying this every time. We just got to be lucky that we actually have a season, and we actually get to watch some football.
And these kids get to play some football, which is really important. These seniors get an opportunity. And we want to welcome our audience. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. And if you're new to what we do, we obviously cover Section 1 football. You guys can follow us on the banner. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and if you're watching this from YouTube, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and give us feedback. So we always appreciate feedback. And Mars, what we'll do is, since this is 1B and there's 8 teams total, 4 games on slate, we're going to talk about all the games, give matchups and keys for each team, and then we'll pick the games at the end. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's just talk about the games on slate, Mars. We got Ardsley at Pearl River, Nanuet at Hen Hud, Pleasantville at Putnam Valley, and Westlake at Byram Hills. 3 of these games are on Friday, but I know the schedule kind of is a little fluid at this point. Some games could be Friday, they could be moved to Saturday, so I won't get into the specifics. But I think Ardsley at Pearl River so far right now is Friday, Nanuet at Hen Hud Friday, Pleasantville at Putnam Valley Friday, and Westlake at Byram Hills is on Saturday. That's what I have so far. But let's go into it, Mars. And the first game I want to talk about is Ardsley at Pearl River. Ardsley, the back-to-back defending champs out of Class B. Ardsley is 3-1 versus Pearl River since 2004. Ardsley has won 3 straight versus Pearl River, including a win in 2019, 42-6 at home. Ardsley has opened up the year 2 straight years, Mars, on the road, and they've won the last 2 years on the road. And the last 2 years, Ardsley 7-0 on the road. So Ardsley is one of those prominent programs in B. But Pearl River at home, 6-2 at home. A very good home record team the last 2 years. And Pearl River the last 2 years has been home, had a home opener, and they've won both those games as well. So a lot of interesting statistics out there, and I'm interested to see what trends continue. But let's start with the away team, Ardsley, offensively. They started the game against Pearl River last year with a kick return for a touchdown. So right out of the gate, they came out flying on this team. And, it was led heavily by their stud running back, Osborne. And Osborne is no longer there, right? So Osborne really went off against Pearl River. He's not there anymore. They like to go fast. They like to give multiple looks, Pearl River. And I think they're going to come out in some spread looks. And I think they'll also come out with a couple tight ends, 20 personnel. 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, right? So you're going to see a little bit of different aspects from Ardsley. They really hurt Pearl River attacking the edge of the defense, whether it was jet sweeps, off-tackle runs with Osborne. I mentioned he's not there anymore, so that's obviously a big shoe to fill. But I think they could do something similar and test the edge of this defense. But I think also they can mix it up with a little more power runs off those tackles with a guy like Liberis, who's more of a power runner than a speed guy. So I do think they're going to attack Pearl River similar to what they did last time, but it's not going to be with the same cast. And that's going to be very important. They really like to attack that BC gap. The big question I have is the quarterback spot, right? They have young players who are going to have to step up big in these roles. And I think as someone who's going to be really involved is their wide receiver, tight end Watson, the junior. We both really like him. He was a Frank's finest. He's going to be huge in this game for them. Defensively, Mars, Pearl River, they're going to come out and spread. They're also going to come out and wing T. And last year, Ardsley really had a dominating front. Okay, they really controlled the line of scrimmage. And when they Pearl River brought in a tight end, or even some of the spread looks, they went to a 5-man front. They were really trying to stop the rush attack of Pearl River, and they did a good job of that. So look for a similar mindset. Look for them to bring some pressure as well. I'm expecting them to do that. I think Ardsley's going to be really strong at the linebacker spot, and I think they're going to be really solid at the defensive line spot. So they're going to be strong at the linebacker spot, really solid at the defensive line spot with guys like Madsen, Dash, Costas. I'm interested to see the defensive back spot, Mars. What are your comments on Ardsley as they prepare for?
I mean, they're a very talented bunch. I think that and when you look at them offensively, they're going to try to either spread you out or give you some, like you said, 2 tight end looks. And at the end of the day, their job is going to be trying to attack off tackle, try to get around the edge, and try to seal everybody back in. I think that's going to be the most important thing offensively that Ardsley can do to try to win the line of scrimmage. And then defensively, I mean, it's all about controlling the trenches, in my opinion. As long as they can do that, then it's going to be a long day for Pearl River. And I think that Ardsley has been proven to be able to do that at whim a lot of times, especially last year and the year before.
Now, the big thing is they graduated a lot of their guys. So there's going to be new guys are going to have to step up if they're going to do what they did last year, which was control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. But let's go to Pearl River, Mars. And offensively for Pearl River, they like to mix spread and wing tee like I talked about with Ardsley's defense. And, I think they're going to be dependent on the quarterback position. I'm interested to see what they do at the quarterback spot. Right now, one of their wide receivers was getting reps due to some quarantine issues. Anthony Sassano, he stepped up and coached that. He's done a pretty good job at practice. But I'm interested to see a guy like Ryan O'Neal. Do they ease a young guy in there? Are they going to mix reps? Is Anthony Sassano going to take the reign this first week? There's a lot of question marks of what's going to happen at the quarterback spot that I'm interested to see. But I think the biggest thing is going to be into the trenches, right? So Pearl River, they bring back a couple of linemen when Ardsley has lost a bunch of theirs, right? Hassaj, Sullivan. They're going to have to be big again, going against these 5-man fronts that I talked about that we're probably going to see against Pearl River again. Can they win the trenches? That's going to be that big battle up front. I think if they bring those 5-man trenches, can those offensive linemen hold them off? Can they create push? But also, can these skill guys beat man coverage? Because when you load up the box, that gives opportunities on the outside for one-on-one. And can those skill guys make plays for an inexperienced quarterback that is coming in for Pearl River? Defensively, Mars, we talked about what Ardsley did to them last year. They got to protect the edge. Right, they cannot let Ardsley contain on them. And guys like Cheristol, Fitzpatrick, Responti, and Bird, they're going to be big. I think Pearl River is strong up front. I think they have a strong front, returning a lot of guys. Cheristol is one of the best edge defenders. They cannot let Ardsley contain on them. Okay, so keep them bottled up, force them to run in between the tackles on you. And, I think they have a vet linebacker like Sullivan who can make a lot of plays for them to stop the run. So to me, Pearl River's best chance of winning this game is to force Ardsley into a passing team. I know they have some weapons, but they have inexperience at quarterback. Test the inexperience of that quarterback. I think that's going to be huge for them, Mars. What are your comments on Pearl River?
Yeah, I think Pearl River defensively is probably going to be the most important aspect, in my opinion. I feel like Ardsley has been proven that, as I said before, to do whatever they want on the offense. And they're going to be trying to get to the outside. And, Pearl River's best aspect of their defense is going to be their front. And as long as they can keep Ardsley with inside the tackle box, it could be a game. And that's going to be the important thing. And at the end of the day, you have to be disciplined. You're going to be baited to kind of go up the field and kind of, be aggressive, but you have to be able to kind of do your job, attack your gap, and seal off any outside run. And if they could do that, and as you mentioned, force the pass, then this could be a game.
Yeah. And, my biggest matchup, Mars, Pearl River's defensive front versus that Ardsley offensive line. Ardsley's got a couple guys coming back, but they lost a good portion of seniors, so that's going to be intriguing. I think the front of Pearl River is really strong. The offense has a couple guys on that O-line, but there's a lot of question marks there as well. So that's going to be my matchup to watch, Mars. Going to the next game, let's talk about Pleasantville at Putnam Valley, and with your association with Pleasantville, Mars, it'll just be me breaking down this game. There's no love lost between these two teams. Obviously being the program, there's not a lot of love between Pleasantville and Putnam Valley, but Pleasantville is 9-4 against Putnam Valley since 2004. They won in 2019, 42-28 at home. This time it's at Putnam Valley. The last time Pleasantville traveled to Putnam Valley, they did win in 2018. Putnam Valley did. And I'm sorry, Pleasantville, won in 2018. Pleasantville last 2 years on the road is 4-5. So they have struggled a little bit on the road, Pleasantville. I'm interested to see how they come out this year on the road. Right? But if you look at Pleasantville offensively, they want to run the ball, and they want to run frequently because they have a strong offensive line. I think they're going to run the ball a lot with a running back, Matt May. He was one of Frank's finest. I think he's going to be given an increased role, and I think he's going to do well with that increased role. But they're going to test the strength of Putnam Valley. And then the play action will open up for the quarterback, from Mike LaCapria, the junior quarterback. But another interesting thing I'm thinking about is what are the weapons on the outside? I think they have a strong offensive line. I think they have a really solid running back, a young quarterback who's getting better. What are the targets going to be? Because they lost some really good wide receivers from last year. Who's going to fill in those roles is going to be the big question offensively for me. Defensively, Mars, they're playing against option football, right? So what does that mean? That means they need to be disciplined. You talked about being over-aggressive. It's the same thing when you play option football. They're going to test, make sure you read your keys, attack your keys, and don't over-pursue, right? Because when you do that, that's how they hit you, okay? It might look like the same play going over and over and over again, but then they have a play that is a series off of that. So they'll give you a dive, and then a quarterback keep, and then a quarterback pitch. So, yeah, got to stay disciplined each time around, and it's going to be really important for Pleasantville to watch their keys and attack their keys. Now looking at Putnam Valley offensively, I talked about they run the option, but what really hurt Putnam Valley, negative plays last year. I saw turnovers, you saw penalties, you saw big negative plays that really hurt their offense. I want to see the quarterback spot, right? Because that's huge in option offense. That guy is the engine of the offense. He's the guy who's making the decisions whether to give it to the fullback, unless coach calls it from the sideline, whether he's going to pitch it, right? Whether he's going to keep it. All those things are run by the quarterback, so that's going to be huge for me because I do think they have some skill guys like Mornier, Salvia, Durisher. They have some guys in space that are good athletes that can make some big plays. That's why the quarterback position to me is going to be intriguing. They have a lot of young faces, so you're going to have a lot of new people that need to step up, especially on the offensive line. So that's going to be very interesting on the offensive side. Defensively, Pleasantville, I don't think it's going to be, rocket science. They're going to run the football. So can you contain the run? Can you control the line of scrimmage? Can you hold your own anchor down? Because these guys are big up front. They're going to try to run the football. All right. So if you can't stop the run, it's going to be some long day for Putnam Valley, and that is going to be the key. And for me, the matchup, I'm looking at, Put Valley's quarterback, fullback, running back combination. That combination versus the front seven of Pleasantville. Because when you talk about option football, that's what you see. A lot of fullback dive, a lot of quarterback keep, and a lot of pitch to the halfback. And so I'm looking at that trio for Putnam Valley versus the front seven of Pleasantville. Are they going to be disciplined? Are they going to attack their reads? That is the matchup that I'm looking for. Mars, let's go to the next game. Nanuet at Hen Hud. And Hen Hud's coming from the A division, moving down to B. They have not played each other since 2004. But Hen Hud at home is 4-4 over the last 2 years. Nanuet on the road the last 2 years is 4-5. So these are both teams around 500 on the road and at home. So I'm interested to see where this goes, this game. But let's talk about Nanuet, Mars. Offensively, they like to run a multiple offense, but their bread and butter is running the football. So I'm expecting to see some heavy Nicolucci and some heavy Ryan. Right? They're going to try to run the football. They're going to test the strength of Hen Hud. They like to shorten the game. They like to control the tempo. I also think they're going to take some shots when the running game gets going to their big target, DeAndre Edwards. This kid is 6'5", right? He's got great straight line speed. I'm going to imagine they want to test the deep ball with him, jump balls with him, test the secondary of Hen Hud, which, by the way, I think is a very good secondary, so that's an intriguing matchup to me. It will not be easy. But, again, when you do that, who's going to be throwing the football? That's going to be a question, too, for Nanuet. Who's going to win that quarterback battle? Talk about Frondy. You talk about Lenahan. Who's going to be the quarterback for Nanuet? Because that's going to be an important role, too. I think there's some other things that is important is the offensive line. I think they have a couple guys coming back, but a lot of question marks. Right? A lot of question marks. I think there was only about one of the linemen coming back or two of the linemen, I think. So you got 3 or 4 roles to fill on that offensive line with 2 weeks of practice. Right? So if you want to be a running football team, that is something that they need to shore up. And I'm interested to see what they do on that side. Defensively, Mars, for Nanuet, you're up against a team that likes to run the football and has experience on the offensive line. So right now, you got youth. They have veterans up in the running game. We're going to see which matchup wins, right? They have a couple big guys up front. I think for Nanuet that I'm interested to see watch play. They got to cause some penetration. They got to anchor down on the run play versus Hen Hud, Mars. Any questions or comments you have about Nanuet?
I mean, Nanuet, you kind of straight up said it. I mean, it's going to be a test to see between the youth versus the veterans. And I think it might be a little tough the first week, but I like the size that Nanuet has. I mean, and that's going to be the big thing. Can they cause disruption in the backfield? Yeah. If they can cause mayhem, it will actually slow up Hen Hud's offensive movement and it kind of throw them off their game a little bit, and then they can really cause a big play. I mean, that's really what it has to be. If you can cause some disruption, cause the smoothness of an offense to kind of be thrown off, then all of a sudden things start to kind of go your way a little bit.
Moving on to Hen Hud, Mars. Offensively, I mentioned their experience on the offensive line. They're bringing back 3 of their 5 starters. They're bringing back also a couple running backs like Artope, Travis, Cepeda. They have a nice mix of power running, shiftiness, and speed in their running game. There could be a force on that running game. So that's what we were talking about Nanuet defensively. They better get some penetration from some of those big linemen, because I think this mixture is a pretty good recipe for Hen Hud. But the question I have is quarterback play, right? Does a guy like Zoller, is he going to take control of that quarterback spot? Did he win the quarterback job? How are they going to test the secondary of Nanuet? Right, so that's going to be a big question. They have the safety DeAndre Edwards, who can move around in that secondary. I think he's a really fine player. He was a Frank's finest safety. Can they test the secondary? Can they keep Nanuet's defense honest? Even though Hen Hud does like to run the football, they got to create a little bit of a balanced attack. So I'm interested to see the quarterback play on the offensive side. Defensively, we know what Nanuet is. Their bread and butter is running the football. So if you're Hen Hud, you want to make them do something they're not comfortable with. That is become a throwing team. Right, so what do? Do you stack the box? Do you bring 5-man front? Do you bring a 8-man box? Force them to throw the ball? That's going to be a question about Hen Hud. But if you can do that without stacking the box completely, if you can be a force, get them in long-distance situations, and put the game into the quarterback's hands, I think Hen Hud will be in a good situation, because I believe their secondary is one of the better secondaries in B. Right, we talk about Travis. We talk about Cepeda. You have some good corners. They're going to be matched up against a 6'5" wide receiver in DeAndre Edwards. That is a really interesting matchup. But I don't feel Nanuet is I'm going to throw it 20-something times a game. Right? They want to run the football. So if you could force them in long down situations and make them uncomfortable being a throwing team, I think you'll have a good chance of winning, putting your secondary in a spot to make plays on the ball. Mars, what are your comments on Hen Hud?
Yeah, when it comes to offensively, I like their offensive line. I like the size, the athleticism, and they have some good weapons to really be able to run the ball effectively. And you kind of mentioned the fact that the quarterback is the question, is really what's going to change whether or not they'll have a more balanced offensive scheme or be really on the heavy run side of the ball. And when it comes to defensively, my opinion would be that you would want to force them to try to do something that they don't like to do, which is pass. And against your solid secondary, it would kind of be a smart move on my part. And I think that's what the game plan is going to be, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the matchup, Mars, I kind of hinted at it during the show or during the segment. Wide receiver DeAndre Edwards versus Hen Hud's quarters, Cepeda and Travis. That's going to be the most intriguing matchup to me. And DeAndre Edwards is one of their best players. Travis and Cepeda are 2 of their best players. They're being matched up against each other. That's going to be an intriguing matchup to watch. Mars, let's go to our game of the week. And our game of the week is Westlake at Byram Hills, Mars. Byram Hills is 7-0 versus Westlake since 2004. They won in 2019 on the road 26-14. This time around, Byram Hills is home. 6 of the 7 victories from Byram Hills have been by 10 or more points. So that's an intriguing thing as well. Byram Hills at home the last 2 years, 6-3. But Westlake on the road the last 2 years, 5-4. Right? So we have a good road team versus a good home team. I'm interested to see this dynamic and if Westlake can kind of push this trend in their direction. But let's start with Westlake. Offensively, Marsh, you're going to see some wing tee stuff. You're going to see some spread. But similar to Nanuet, they are a ground and pound offense. They want to run the football. But the engine of this offense, let's make no mistake about it, is going to be their quarterback, Matt Sardo. Out of the spread, out of the wing tee, I'm expecting a lot of runs from Matt Sardo. He's their most explosive player. He's one of the most explosive players in Class B. Right? So they're going to run some power reads. They're going to do some quarterback powers. I'm expecting some quarterback counters. I'm also expecting some jet rushes. Right? And when they go into wing tee, that's when you'll see the fullback get it. That's when you'll see some have the halfback counters. But I'm expecting to see a lot of quarterback runs. That's what I'm expecting. I also thought they had some pretty solid success against Byram Hills in some of their spread looks last year. The 2v2, also in 20 gun. And we used to call it deuce. But when they have 2 backs, no tight ends in the gun, I thought they had some success as well. And I think they had some success attacking the edge of the defense. So when they were running the jets, when they were running quarterback powers or halfback powers that attack the C-gap, I thought they found some success attacking Byram Hills' defense last year with some of those sweeps and some of those power plays, attacking the C and D gap. Also throwing it to the slot. That also worked a little bit too, that they had some success against Byram Hills. Quick throws, not holding the ball on too long because they have some dudes that are coming at you. right? Another question I have offensively, Mars, is who else is going to make plays besides Matt Sardo? I think they got the guys. But the question is, are we going to see it out on the football field? I think they have the opportunity to. Guys like Piazza, Falkenberg, Lamas, Murray. Like, they have some dudes. They have some dudes with some nice speed. They have some dudes with some strength. I'm interested to see who else is going to step up because we know what Matt Sardo is. The question is, what else is there around him? Right? I think they have those guys, but now we're going to see it in a game setting. Right? Defensively, Mars, they have a lot of weapons they got to stop when you look at Byram Hills. Right? The biggest thing that they do well is they create penetration up front. They have fast, explosive D linemen who uses their hands well, penetrate into the backfield. Byram Hills is going to come out and spread, but they'll also mix some 12 personnel at you. They'll go heavy, right? And they'll try to run you over. So it's really important for, defensive line, that front seven, guys like Ojeda, Bravo, Marto, Piazza, the linebacker. They're going to have to be very active in this game for them to have a chance. They got to use their speed because they're not the biggest guys, but if they can use their speed and explosiveness to penetrate into the backfield, they will have a chance. Because I think their secondary will match up well with Byram Hill's skill guys. Except they have one guy on Byram Hills, and we've talked about him quite a lot, Stephen Franco, Mars. That's a tough matchup for any secondary, but I think they do have some dudes in the secondary that can make it difficult for a guy like Stephen Franco. And when I watched them compete against Byram Hills last year, Mars, they came out in a couple different looks. They went 3-3-5. They went 4-2. The question I'm going to have is what are they going to do when they come out in 12 personnel? Are they going to come out in a 5-man front, right? I thought they did struggle, and I'm interested to see how they redeem it when Byram Hills came out in trips, right? They were able to make some throws on them in trips, some of the RPO stuff. So I'm interested to see how Westlake, because I think Byram Hills is going to come at him again. Out of those trip looks, Mars. So what are your comments on Westlake?
Well, Westlake is a run first, run second, and maybe run third time type of offense, and they have the weapons to do it. I mean, Matt Sardo is a all-around great athlete. I mean, he was a Frank's finest, and he really proved that he can really move and that he's very smooth as a runner, very aggressive runner, explosive. So he's definitely a danger to have. But the question is going to be who else is going to be making plays? And, if you're scheming against Westlake defensively, you're going to say, well, we're going to try to stop Sardo from making the big play, and you're going to have to force other people to do so. And for Westlake to really have success, there's going to have to be a collection of players that make the plays. When it comes to defensively, I mean, Byram Hills just has so many weapons. And it's going to be difficult to stop them all, but it really has to start with your key veterans veteran presence being active, causing disruption, being in the middle of every play, and having many hats to the ball. I mean, those are all crucial. That's going to make Byram Hills not really just be able to walk all over you because they have so many weapons. It's hard to just keep track of all of them. Yeah,
it is going to be difficult. And I did actually a bit of a breakdown of how Westlake's defense could try to stop Byram Hills. In this video, we're going to talk about Westlake's defense and what they could potentially do to stop Byram Hill's potent rush attack. And Byram Hill likes to come out and spread looks. They like to mix it up with also some tight ends. They'll come out in trips. They'll come out with 2 backs and 3 wide receivers like you see right now. They'll go 2x2. So they like to bring a lot of different things to the table, and Westlake will give different looks. They'll give a 3-man front. They'll give a 4-man front. They'll send pressure via the linebackers. But what really makes Westlake's defense good is their speed up front, right? The speed up front allows them to penetrate and allows the linebackers to be active, to not get linemen up in their face. And we'll go over a couple plays that we're expecting Westlake to do similar concepts. And this is a 2-back setup, right, with 3 receivers. We talked about this is a 3-3 front. Okay, so 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers. So this is one look that they'll give them. The offense is going to do, they're going to be running a wide trap. Trap this defensive end. They try to run right behind it. But watch the defensive line. Watch them explode out of their stance, get penetration. This is where they're the most successful. Look at the penetration. Okay? Not too deep, right? About a yard in the backfield, so they're not going way up the field. And they rally. I mean, it's a great play. Again, watch it from the top. Watch the speed. Look at the linebacker attacking the line of scrimmage, making the lineman miss. Let's go to another play. This time, we got a 4-man front. Right? They're 2x2, a different spread look. Byram Hills loves to run this play, power read. Okay? And watch the defense. Using their speed. Using their hands, right? More penetration. Right? And then watch them close. Again. It's a good job. From the top. Not the biggest defensive line. They have some strength. They like to use their speed. That's what makes them really unique. And they rally. All right, let's go to another play. 4-man front. Again, new spread look. Trips to the right. Solo receiver to the left. Okay. You're going to be running a zone. Okay. Quarterback's going to be reading the edge defender. But watch the speed that he comes off the line. They're going to be sending a linebacker as well. All right. Comes so fast, it confuses the quarterback. Probably should have kept it, but again, this is great closing speed. Just watch them explode out of their stance. For Westlake to be successful, they're going to have to use their speed. They're going to have to use their hands. They're going to have to get penetration. I mean, I'm very intrigued to see what Westlake is going to do to show different fronts to get the defensive linemen to penetrate through their gaps, use their speed, use their hands. They're going to need to. It's going to have to be a group effort to stop all the different weapons that Byram Hills has. I'm intrigued to see what they do this upcoming game. All right, Mars, let's move now to Byram Hills. And, I'll start offensively. I did a little breakdown offensively, but we'll go through offense and defense, and then I'll show the breakdown. But offensively, we talked about they have a lot of weapons and a bunch of different backs. Westlake's defense isn't the biggest, but they're very explosive. They do a really good job of penetrating and freeing up their linebackers so that they can be active. So it's really important for the offensive line of Byram Hills to move their feet. Don't lunge for them, right? Because they have, I think, a strength advantage over Westlake. So if you could stop their speed, I think that'll be big. I think it'll be important for Byram Hills. And even Coach talked about it. They want to bring in more tight ends. Bring in tight ends and run with power. Right? They can run with power with their quarterback. They can run with power with their running back. A guy like Hayden Fruling, he's a 190-pound guy. He can run with power at the quarterback spot. Stephen Franco, you can move into the quarterback spot. He can run with power. And even have a running back, Matt Wheeler, who didn't play against Westlake last year. If he plays, he can run with power as well. So they have the guys, the way to isolate speed or the way to hurt speed is to run right at them. Right, so do they use their strength? Do they bring in tight ends and try to run heavy on Westlake is going to be something I find interesting. I also think that they can test the outside. Right, they can run power with the quarterback, and they can bring in a guy like Jack Dillinger, running back, to attack them on the edge, which he was there last year and played against them. And I'll mention it when I was talking about Westlake, Mars. I thought Byram Hills had success when they tried throwing the football, throwing it out of trips. They hurt Westlake a few times throwing out of trips, attacking the number 3 receiver. I'm interested to see if they use that method again, to see if they shored up that in the secondary. Defensively, Mars, you're going up against Wing T, so I'm expecting to see Byram Hills load up the box. 7 or 8 guys in the box, forcing them to throw. Matt Sardo's a great athlete, but we don't know, too much about him throwing the football. So I'm imagining Byram Hills is going to try to test that theory. I think it's going to have to be a big game for the linebackers and the edge defenders. They got to contain that speed of Sardo. That's going to be huge for them. I think Byram Hills can live if 2 things occur. Defensively, I think they can live if Matt Sardo beats them with their arm. Right? I think Byram Hills can live with that. Obviously, they don't like it, but if they force him to be a throwing quarterback and he beats you that way, I think you could say, hey, that's the best we did. Right? Or if they force his other backs to beat you, I think that they could live with that. But don't let Matt Sardo be the one to beat you. If I'm Byram Hills defense, and they're probably saying it, don't let Matt Sardo beat you. Right? Don't let the big plays happen. Don't let him break contain on you. Okay, and that's going to be really important. Mars, any comments on Byram Hills?
I mean, they just have so many weapons on the offensive side. I think that they have the advantage when it comes to the offensive line and back play all around, just because Westlake doesn't have a crew of backs. I mean, they have Sardo, who is a great talent, and definitely
I think they do have some, but it's
unproven.
Yeah.
I think that Byram Hills has the proven guys that can make those plays, and I just think they have the advantage when it comes to the trenches. Defensively, I think we kind of you both said it already that you want to keep Sardo from killing it. You have to force Westlake to beat you with other players, or make Sardo have to throw the rock all over the place to beat you. And as you said, if that's the way they lose, then you did your one job, right? It just means your offense wasn't able to move as well. But at the end of the day, Sardo's going to be the key, right? And he's going to be where you're going to be focusing your entire defense this game around.
Yeah, and focusing on the run, I think, is going to be the big thing for Byram Hills. Moving back to Byram Hills' offense, Mars, I did do a breakdown on Byram Hills' offense and how they may attack the Westlake defense. For this video, we're going to talk about Byram Hills' offense and what they could potentially do to attack this fast Westlake defense. And we all know Byram Hills has a very potent rush attack, but Westlake also brings a bunch of starters back on defense with a lot of speed up front and in the front seven. And, Westlake showed them a bunch of different looks when they played them, when they came out in spread looks, whether it was a 3-man front, 4-man front. Sometimes they'll bring 7 guys into the box. And we'll talk about different ways that Byram Hills not only attacked them last year, but what you might expect to see again this year. And here they come out in trips right. And what the defense is going to come out, and because they're trying to stop the run, they got 7 guys in the box, right? And if you put lines outside the leg of the tackle, you'll see that there are 7 players in this box. This guy's a bit of a hanger, so he might go both ways, but right now he's sitting in that box. And so this is going to give, one of the ways is to attack them using trips, and they were successful last year doing it, and I would imagine that they're going to try to repeat that. So you see they have 3 receivers to the right. There's only 2 defenders right now out there. So they have the advantage, and that's exactly what they're going to target. All right? Use the play action to make some plays. Okay, use the run game to open up the passing game, and you're going to see this number 3 receiver go down the seam, and that's what they're targeting. It all depends on what this linebacker does. If he stays low, you're going to throw it to that open window. Right? And this safety cheating over to the single receiver side, not in the middle of the field, and this is kind of where you would expect to go. All right, so let's see it. Right, quarterback makes a good read, good throw, big chunk play. Right, this is how you can open up the defense a little bit. This is how you can get those 7-man boxes, 8-man boxes to spread out a little bit more, give you a better opportunity to run the football. Again, watch it. They want to load the box if they want to bring pressure. This is how you do it. Quick throws. Get them in trips. Another way that I could see Byram Hills attacking Westlake is to try to run right at them, overpower them. Bringing in tight end, bringing 2 tight ends. And this is an example from last year on a touchdown that they scored. And you're going to see, right? They have a guard, tackle, tight end. They got what we call cheater backs here. And this might be able to work as well. And Westlake has a lot of speed, but they're not the biggest. They're not going to be the strongest front. And I could see Byram Hills trying to use their power against Westlake, right? And they're going to be running a quarterback power. Right, you're going to see some down blocks. You're going to try to move the line of scrimmage. You're going to get some doubles. You're going to get a guard pulling over. And they have a couple guys like Hayden Fruling and Stephen Franco. And even if they want to use a running back, Matt Wheeler, they have powerful running backs that can get those gritty yards. And you're going to see it right here, right? Quarterback makes a fake, and then here comes the power. But look at the line, right? Look at them move the line of scrimmage. That's how you stop against speedy guys. Run right at them. Don't allow them to use their speed to penetrate. Get down blocks. Get doubles. Look at them push around these guys. All right, one more time. I'm expecting Byram Hills to use a bunch of power in this upcoming game. Try to run right at them. How they may attack the Westlake defense. All right, Mars, before we move to the game, I do want to talk about the matchup of the game. And for me, it's the solid offensive line of Byram Hills versus the strength on the defense, which is Westlake's front 7. That matchup to me is going to dictate how this game goes, in my opinion, because Byram Hills is a very potent rush attack. If the front 7 can control the line of scrimmage, I think it'll be a long day for Westlake. But the same thing the other way. If Westlake causes a lot of penetration and puts Byram Hills behind the chains, that'll give Westlake a real opportunity to win this game. So that's the matchup for me. And the player to watch, I'm going with running back Matt Wheeler of Byram Hills. He didn't play in the game, or I don't recall him playing in the game last year against Westlake. He could be that running back that does a little bit of zone, that does some power, and runs right at this defense that they didn't have last time they played him. And I think that could bring a dynamic that they didn't have before. You ready to pick the games, Mars? Let's go to our game picks.
Yep, I'm ready. I'm ready to roll.
All right, so you're going to pick 3. I'm going to pick all 4 of them. Let's start with the first game that we broke down, Ardsley at Pearl River, Mars. I'll go first. I'm going to go with Ardsley, and I know that they're the younger team, and I really like the defensive front of Pearl River. But I also like the offensive line of Ardsley, and I think they will hold up against this defensive front. It'll be a tough matchup. It'll be a grinded-out kind of game. I think a lower-scoring game. But the linebacker core of Ardsley is really strong, and I think that they are going to stop the Pearl River rush attack a little bit. And I talked about, the quarterback position. We haven't had a lot of practice. It's really hard to develop a quarterback in this COVID time, and they had to move a wide receiver over to the quarterback spot because of quarantine issues. So I'm intrigued. I know Pearl River's coaching staff did a fantastic job during the weeks of practice, but it's a lot to ask for. A lot. So I'm a little concerned about the quarterback spot, and because of all those reasons, I think this will be a defensive struggle game, and I think Ardsley will come out on top.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Ardsley as well. I think that Ardsley just has the advantage when it comes to the defensive front being as solid as it is, having solid linebackers. But I'm going to focus in on the key matchup of the day, in which you mentioned before, the offensive line versus the defensive line. And I just think the Ardsley offensive line is going to win this battle. And I think that's going to be the driving force. They'll control the momentum, and it may not be a high-scoring game, but the momentum will feel like it's an Ardsley win.
Next game, Pleasantville at Putnam Valley, and I'll pick this one. I'm going with Pleasantville, and I think Putnam Valley is a young team with a lot of questions. Again, when you're a really young team and you have 2 weeks of practice, it's a little bit difficult to get everything ready to go for a week 1 game in a normal season, with a normal off season. But now in COVID season, where everything's shortened, Pleasantville is more of a veteran team coming back with a veteran front. I think Pleasantville is going to win at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, which is going to give them the best chance to win, and I think they will. Let's go to the next game, Mars. Nanuet at Hen Hud. I'll let you go first on this one, Mars. Which one are you going?
I'm going to go Hen Hud. I think that the offensive line is very good. They have good size, good athleticism, and then they have good weapons around it. And it will make their life a lot easier when having to run the ball and have a really solid balance between all these different schemes that you could possibly run. I mean, obviously the quarterback is the question, but I think honestly you have such a good offensive line that I'm not saying it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, but I think it'll be lighten the load for the quarterbacks. It'll make their life a little bit easier. And when it comes to defense, I just think that they're going to play solid enough that I don't think Nanuet's going to be able to run the ball as heavily as they would like to. So I'm gonna stick with Hen Hud here.
All right, listen, I hate agreeing with you, but I am going to agree with you. I'm taking Hen Hud as well. I think they have more experience. I think they have a veteran line. And I think up front is the biggest question for Nanuet on both the offensive and defensive line. It's going to be a tough matchup, and I think winning in the trenches gives you a lot better chance to win, especially in a shortened season. And I think Hen Hud is going to have that. It's going to be another grinded-out game. I could see this being a low-scoring game, but I think Hen Hud makes a couple more big plays, and they're going to pull off the victory. All right, Mars. The game of the week, Westlake at Byram Hills. We talked about Byram Hills kind of owning this battle since 2004. Does Westlake pull off the upset, or does Byram Hills continue the trend?
I'm going to stick with Byram Hills. I think they're going to continue the trend here. I think they just have so many weapons, and it's just hard to kind of bottle up all these different players that can hurt you. I think the offensive line is a very strong aspect of this offense, and I really think that with a mix of that and having really just all these weapons unable to stop, I think their offense is going to be pretty efficient. And on top of that, defensively, I think they're going to key in on Sardo, and I think they're going to try to limit his ability to beat them. And by doing that, I think it'll be a closer game than some people might think, but I think that they're just going to be pulling away by the end. I think that these weapons are just going to be too much for Westlake's defense.
I'm going to say this. I think these are arguably the 2 best teams in B. I think both their starting 11 is equal. I think Byram Hills has a little bit more depth, and I'm going to take Byram Hills because of that. I love the starting 11 for both teams. 2 of the, again, arguably best teams, but I just think Byram Hills has a little bit more. And when you have a little bit more, I think both teams are well coached. So I think those things cancel each other out. I think in the end, Byram Hills is just a little too much, like you mentioned. I think a little too much weapons, with Westlake being a little bit of a question mark with the weapons outside of Sardo. I think Byram Hills does pull away at the end, and I am going to take Byram Hills to win this matchup. All right, Mars, that was our show for Class 1B. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I'm sorry for the Westlake people out there, but I do want to give a shout-out for giving us a T-shirt and the hat, so I appreciate it. I want to give a shout-out to the Westlake football program for supplying that, and don't take my picking Byram Hills as any disrespect. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all very soon.